Okay, so we need to talk about Chappell Roan's performance at the VMAs because my queer historian self is screaming. As soon as Chappell hit the red carpet, it was widely reported that her outfit had been inspired by Joan of Arc. And now, I don't think this is entirely wrong, but as soon as her performance began, it became clear to me she was more directly referencing another fantastic historical figure. Julie d'Aubigny, the queer, cross-dressing, sword-fighting opera singer from the 17th century who once burnt down a nunnery in order to save her lover. Now, Julie's life is shrouded in scandal, gossip, and hearsay. But one of the most famous stories is of a young woman who fell in love with Julie after watching her perform on the opera stage. The two began an affair, and when her parents found out, they shipped this young woman off to a convent. But Julie was not going to let that stop her. She entered the convent as well, pretending to be a postulant, and then burnt the convent to the ground, rescuing her lover. The two lived on the run for 3 months together before they were eventually discovered, and when they were, Julie was sentenced to death. But the court sentenced Julie under Sir du Maupin because they couldn't even admit that a woman was capable of seducing and abducting another woman. Another famous story about Julie is how she once entered a ball dressed as a man and began flirting with one of the women there. This enraged 3 noble men in attendance who were also trying to vie for this woman's attention. And so Julie challenged them to a duel. She defeated, without killing, all 3 men because on top of being a famous opera singer, she was also a fencing master. The theatrics, the sword fighting, the burning of a building to the ground, I feel pretty confident in saying that Chappell Roan was going for a Julie d'Aubigny inspired performance. This is not to say that the reference to Joan of Arc does not exist, because as soon as you put a woman in chainmail, people are going to think of Joan of Arc. And Chappell would have known that. There is a huge amount of parallels between religion, gender bending, and being true to yourself that are in both Joan and Julie's stories. And I feel confident in saying Chappell's too. Chappell Roan is constantly referencing the impact religion can have on identity formation in her performance and in her lyrics. Joan of Arc believed she was called by God to lead the French army, and when she was turned down for being a teenage girl, she entered dressed as a man. And even after leading France to victory, she was prosecuted and burnt at the stake for being a witch by a society that refused to defend her. All the while, she remained true to herself and her faith. Chappell Roan's authenticity is one of the reasons she's had such a skyrocket to fame. Only a year ago, she was performing in Melbourne to a crowd chanting at her to do a shoey. But it's also the reason that a lot of people have been tearing her down. And so I think there's a huge amount of parallels to be found between Joan and Julie. And before anyone says that I am reading too much into this and this is just a costume, no. Chappell Roan is drag, and drag is a form of protest. Every time Chappell Roan comes out on stage, she does so with a point and a purpose. Everything about her look was considered, from the 300-year-old robe to a 600-year-old rug she had rolled out before she walked the red carpet. Chappell Roan was not referencing one person or one time period. She was referencing history altogether and revolutionizing it. Maybe because Chappell Roan is in the process of writing history, and I think she knows it. Whatever the intended reason or the interpretations that will come, I think it's fair to say that this VMA's performance will go down in the history of music. And of course, if you enjoy learning about the present from the little-known stories of the past, remember to keep joining me here at Kinky History. You're standing face to face with I told you so.